Dear shareholders, dear fellow directors, dear members of the Quebecor family, good morning and welcome to Quebecor's Annual Shareholders Meeting. We are delighted to welcome you back to our offices and to take stock together of another eventful year. The business of the meeting will be conducted in French. However, the proceedings are being interpreted into English and audio devices are available at the entrance to the room. With that, allow me to introduce you to the people joining me on this stage. Firstly, Mr. Fiscal Year, President and Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Hugues Simard, Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Marie-Pierre Simard, Senior Vice President, Legal Affairs and Corporate Secretary, who is to my immediate right. Who will serve as secretary of this meeting. Before officially opening the meeting, allow me to share a few words about the year just ended. Last April, we celebrated the third anniversary of the acquisition of Freedom Mobile, a landmark and profoundly transformative event for Quebecor. 3 years later, this decision, which lies at the heart of our success, continues to be lauded within the company and extolled by many shareholders, analysts, investors, and financial columnists. Quebecor embarked on this major shift toward geographic expansion in 2023 with a clear ambition of becoming the fourth major player in Canada's telecommunications landscape. Today, when we look at the prominent position Freedom has carved out itself in the Canadian market, we can proudly say mission accomplished. Its arrival sparked a wave of renewal that shook up the established order in the Canadian market, and the results speak for themselves. As we anticipated, the competition driven by Freedom has led to a marked drop in the cost of wireless services in Canada, nearly 31.6% since March 2023, just before the acquisition. For Canadian consumers, this is a tangible benefit. And for us, it is the clearest demonstration of our commitment and our ability to take action to transform telecommunications in Canada. This trajectory is reminiscent of Videotron and the immense impact it had in Quebec. Two major successes driven by the same bold ambition and the unique vision of our President and CEO, Fiscal Year. This success story is also that of our teams, who work together remarkably well to ensure Videotron, Fizz, and Freedom became success stories in Quebec and indeed across Canada. I would like to sincerely thank them. I would also like to highlight the equally monumental work of our TVA group teams, who have demonstrated exceptional commitment and resilience in the face of a structural crisis. Nearly 3 years after beginning the implementation of a major restructuring plan, at the cost of considerable effort and resources dedicated to the transformation, one can only conclude that TVA Group continues to operate in a fragile Quebec audiovisual industry, and that this fragility will force us to constantly push our limits. Whether it's to develop new growth areas or to safeguard the sustainability of more vulnerable business sectors, we can always count on Telecom's determination, backed by a team of fully committed senior executives to take the necessary steps to secure our future and continue to enable us to invest in our society. True to the values of our founder, Pierre Pelado, Quebecor continues to strengthen its role far beyond its economic impact. The company made a total contribution of over $38 million this year and supported more than 400 organizations working across Quebec in various areas of our society. Whether it's supporting young people from all backgrounds through the Telecom Foundation, helping to develop essential resources for adults with autism through the Autisme Majeur organization, or promoting digital accessibility to great isolation and low-income seniors through Mission Unitaidés. Quebecor's support makes tangible projects possible to enhance community life. This commitment has always been and indeed remains a great source of pride for Quebecor and all of its staff, as well as the company's board members and partners. We will now begin the official portion of the meeting, namely by reviewing the various items listed in the notice of meeting you received. Next, Pascal Pilato will provide an overview of the company's achievements and the challenges that lie ahead, before Uxima presents a summary of the results for the past fiscal year, as well as the first quarter of 2026. We will then continue with the Q&A portion of the meeting, during which we will be happy to answer shareholders' questions. Our secretary has received confirmations that the notice of meeting, management proxy circular, and proxy forms have been duly sent to the registered shareholders. This confirmation will be included in the record of this meeting. Enfin, vos séjours à Isabelle Vachon of TSX Trust Company will serve as scrutineers. Before the meeting began, the scrutineers confirmed that we had quorum. We may therefore open the meeting. The audit of consolidated financial statements for fiscal year ended December 31st, 2025 have already been sent to you. Now will provide a brief overview of the financial statements during his presentation. The financial statements and the external auditor's report will be included in the minutes of the meeting. We will now proceed to review the various resolutions submitted to you via the management proxy circular. To facilitate the meeting, we've confirmed in advance that participation of certain shareholders or proxy holders who are also employees of the company and who have agreed to act as movers or seconders throughout this meeting. When required, I will invite them to introduce the resolutions at a microphone. I would now like to ask the Secretary to explain the voting procedure for this meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair. Only registered shareholders and proxy holders present at this meeting may participate in the vote. Registered shareholders who have already voted by proxy need not vote again, unless they wish to revoke their proxy. In such a case, the shareholder is asked to go to the transfer agent's table located outside this room. Upon registration this morning, registered proxy holders and shareholders who had not already submitted their proxies received ballots. Shareholders and proxy holders are asked to remain in their seats during each voting period. The ballots, which are a different color for each voting item, will be collected as votes received by representatives of our transfer agent who will be walking up and down the aisle. Unless otherwise indicated, voting will be by show of hands for each proposal without interruption to the meeting. The results of the votes will be announced before the shareholders' Q&A period. Thank you, Ms. Pina. Let's now move on to the first item on the agenda, the election of directors. First, let me take this opportunity to highlight the nomination of Marc Tremblay to the board of directors. Mr. Tremblay brings extensive expertise in the legal field, as well as a deep understanding of the company and its various sectors, thanks to his 15 years in the company's senior management. Mr. Tremblay, Marc, I would like to congratulate you on joining the board and thank you for standing for election. I would also like to thank our colleagues on the board of directors, Chantal Bélanger, director since 2018, and Eric Pelado, director since 2015, who have chosen not to seek re-election as directors. Eric Pelado's remarkable contribution and commitment over the past 20 years have been a valuable asset to the board of directors. Thank you, Eric. Finally, thanks to Chantal's extensive experience as a corporate director and her involvement not only on the board, but also as a member and later chair of the Audit and Risk Management Committee, the entire board has benefited from her contributions, not to mention senior management, which has been able to count on her professional guidance. Thank you, Chantal. Unfortunately, Chantal is not with us this morning, but we still thank her for everything she's done for us. The board has a number of directors to be elected at 7 to this meeting, their terms ending at the close of the next annual meeting of shareholders. 5 of the 7 directors will represent holders of Class A shares, and 2 directors will represent holders of subordinate Class B shares in accordance with the company's Articles of Incorporation. All of these candidates have agreed to stand for election to the board of directors and are currently directors of the company. We will begin the election of the 5 individuals for the position of Class A director. Let's introduce them and ask them to stand when their names are called. Mr. André Brosseau, Ms. Michel Colpron, Ms. Lise Coteau, Mr. Jean Pelado, as well as myself, Sylvie Lalonde. I would now like to invite Mr. Jean-François Lecadre, the company's proxy holder, to proceed with their nomination. Madam Chair, thank you. I nominate the following 5 individuals for the position of Class A Director of the corporation: Mr. André Brosseau, Ms. Michel Colpron, Ms. Lise Coteau, Ms. Lalonde, and Mr. Jean Pelado. I almost got forgotten there. Thank you, Mr. Lecadre. There are 5 Category A director positions to be filled, and we have 5 qualified candidates who have been nominated. Considering that no other nominations were submitted within the time limit set forth in the bylaw regarding the notice period for director nominations, I would ask Mr. Lecadre to present his proposal to elect each of the 5 individuals who have been nominated. Madam Chair, I move that the 5 individuals previously nominated be elected as Class A directors of the company. Thank you. Will someone second this motion? Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Mohamed Trif, and I second this motion. Thank you, Mr. Trif. I will now ask the Secretary to provide instructions for this vote. Thank you, Madam Chair. Only proxy holders and shareholders of Class A shares may vote on this motion. You must use the blue ballot provided to you upon registration. You must indicate your voting intention for each of the 5 candidates by checking either for or abstain. Be sure to sign ballot for it to be valid. Once your ballot is completed and signed, please raise your hand so we can collect it. The next item on the agenda is the election of Category B directors. For the 2 Category B director positions, I would like to introduce our candidates and ask them to stand when their names are called. Mr. Franz Santini and Mr. Marc Tremblay. I would like to invite Ms. Nadège Diaz to proceed with their nomination. Madam Chair, I nominate the following 2 individuals for the position of Category B Director of the company: Mr. Franz Santini and Mr. Marc Tremblay. Thank you, Nadège. There are 2 Class B directors we have two qualified candidates who have been nominated. Considering that no other nominations were submitted within the time limit set forth in the bylaw regarding the notice period for the nomination of directors, I would ask Ms. Pouillet to make a proposal to elect each of the two individuals who have been nominated. Madam Chair, I move that the two individuals previously nominated be elected as Class B directors of the company. Thank you. Who will second this motion? Madam Chair, my name is Peggy Tabet, and I second this motion. Thank you, Ms. Tabet. I would now ask the Secretary to provide the instructions for this vote. Only proxy holders and shareholders of Class B shares may vote on this proposal. You must use the green ballot provided to you upon registration. You must indicate your voting intention for each of the two candidates by either checking the for box or the abstain box. Be sure to sign the ballot for it to be. Your ballot is completed and signed. Raise your hand so we collect it. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of the external auditor. We've recommended the appointment of Ernst & Young as the company's external auditor. I would like to ask Ms. Nathalie Fabien to make a motion for the appointment of the external auditor. Madam Chair, I move that Ernst & Young be appointed as the company's external auditor. Thank you, Ms. Fabien. And who seconds this motion? My name is Nikki Blitzer, and I second this motion. Thank you, Mr. Levu. Ms. Simard, would you like to explain the voting procedure? All proxy holders and shareholders of Class A and Class B shares will vote together on this motion. You must use the yellow ballot provided to you. You must indicate your voting intention by checking the for box or the abstain box. Once your ballot is completed and signed, please raise your hand so that we may collect it. The next item on the agenda concerns the approval of the advisory resolution sourcing the board's approach to executive compensation. This is described in detail in the management proxy circular that was sent to you. I would like to ask Ms. Ritchie to move the adoption of this resolution. Madam Chair, I move that the advisory resolution approving the board's approach to executive compensation, the text of which is set forth in the management proxy circular, be approved. Thank you, Ms. Ritchie. And who will second this motion? Madam Chair, my name is Roxanne Doucet, and I second this motion. Ms. Doucet, Ms. Simard, would you please explain the voting procedure? All proxy holders and shareholders of Class A and Class B shares will vote together on this motion. You must use the white ballot provided to you at registration. You must indicate your voting intention by checking the for box or the against box. Once your ballot is completed and signed, please raise your hand so we may collect it. The company has received two proposals from the Mouvement d'Éducation et de Défense des Actionnaires, or MEDAC. These proposals are included in the Schedule A of the Management Proxy Circular. I would invite Mr. Gagnon to come to the microphone to introduce his proposal. Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Louis Gagnon, and I act on behalf of MEDAC. I have been are at the MIDAC for almost 20 years, and we've been shareholders for a long time, since 2012. So we submitted two proposals. One that's very important, one perhaps less important. The first, strengthening shareholder participation in annual general meetings. Last year, there was lack of quorum. I had never seen that. It happened at Air Transit as well. Yes, at Transit as well. So that led us to ask ourselves, why? It's part of our democracy. Shareholders, like often individual retail shareholders, are less represented. So we ask ourselves this question for many companies, financial institutions, and some problems are systemic. So to try and understand which of these reasons are the main ones, we need information, which is why we built this proposal asking a series of measures. The first three measures are obvious. Most companies already comply. But the fourth was the establishing of a very small table that would let us know if participation is increasing or decreasing for institutional and retail shareholders. This data is available, and it's very difficult for an individual shareholder to access this data. The data is available, and so it would be interesting to see how retail investors are represented in these AGMs. So we would like, especially from a company like yours, that's sensitive from retail shareholders, that a company like yours established a small table, such as the one we asked. We would have expected that it be possible to people like this. We continue to expect it. We may change this proposal in the future. I know it's not very popular, but we do ask shareholders to support us. If we'd had this summary table, there would be no such proposal. And then the second proposal is the one we generally send, depends on the popularity of our proposal. We often ask why our advisory vote on executive compensation is not supported. In the reply, the company explains that there seems to be reluctance for the CEO's compensation, but not the rest of the senior leadership. So we would have liked some of these components to be explained further in the reply, and would like the company to comply with our request to conduct this analysis every year. We didn't get the statistics, and we didn't get the engagement of the company, which is why we are suggesting this proposal. Thanks again for giving us the floor. It was not easy. I'm very happy, and I'm, of course, happy to be part of these. Thank you, Mr. Gang. So, thank you. I will try to summarize our answers to these two proposals, and of course, our replies are fleshed out in the Schedule A, the circular. In response to Proposal 1 on enhancing shareholder participation in annual general meetings, as mentioned in the management proxy circular, the company is committed to maintaining a clear, accessible, and transparent dialogue with all of its shareholders. The company also works with its transfer agent to ensure broad and effective engagement, and believes that its voting process is simple and comparable to, if not superior to, that of other issuers. Furthermore, for several years now, Quebecor has been taking concrete steps to improve communication with shareholders, whether through the publication of its corporate social responsibility report, which is a very lengthy report that has a lot of interesting content, or through conference calls for discussions with shareholder advocacy groups and investors. Over the past year, we've been improving by issuing a press release simply to announce information and documents related to the annual meeting, specifying a variety of things, including the agenda, the date, time, and location of the meeting, how to access the relevant documents, and the available voting methods. The company continues to hold its annual general meeting in person. Furthermore, holders, something I'd like to recall, and it's set out in many areas of the circular, we are one of the rare companies that through bylaws allows Class B shareholders to vote to elect 25% of the total members of the board. Now that is quite a unique practice amongst larger organizations such as Quebecor. So, given the company's various practices for communicating and indeed engaging shareholders, we believe that we address the concerns expressed in the proposal. And at the same time, I can tell you that we are always very much open to MEDAC's mission. That was my reply for proposal number 1. In response to proposal number 2, regarding a report on the advisory vote for executive compensation, the company has, in fact, carefully reviewed the results of the advisory vote on executive compensation for last year, and we also received comments through the shareholder engagement efforts undertaken. And in light of this analysis, the company understands that the opposition rate observed is attributable specifically to certain components of the CEO compensation, and that it does not reflect a challenge to the compensation of all members of senior management. The company's board, supported by the Human Resources and Corporate Governance Committee, takes the results of the advisory vote into account as part of its review of the principal and compensation program for senior executives, which was done in 2025. The company continues to use its compensation practices to ensure that they continue to support its business strategy while reflecting the expectations of investors as well as governance practices. I'll close by saying that according to the preliminary report from the scrutineers, proposal number 1 received the support of 0.13% of the votes cast by Class B shareholders, while proposal number 2 received the support of 3.24% of the votes cast by Class B shareholders. I thank you very much, Mr. Daniel. Please go ahead. Thank you for your reply. It's quite rare to get such an extensive reply verbally as well. And we apologize. I need to leave because I have another 8 p.m. to attend elsewhere downtown at 11 a.m. So I must hurry. But I do appreciate your time. You can always listen to us after the fact. I'm recording you. Have no fear. So I would now ask Mr. Liscard to move regarding the 2 shareholder proposals submitted to a vote. And in the absence of another seconder, I will ask as the seconder for these 2 proposals. Madam Chair, I move that the 2 shareholder proposals be put to a vote. Thank you, Mr. Liscard. So, Ms. Hubert, could you please explain the voting procedure? All proxies and proxy holders and shareholders of Class A and Class B shares will vote together on these proposals. You must use the orange ballot, which was provided to you. You must indicate your voting intention by checking the for box or the against box. Once your ballot is completed and signed, please raise your hand so we may collect it. Thank you. I now invite our Chairman and CEO of Telecom, Pierre, to present the 2025 annual report. who is the most cherished person in Montreal. We will just gives millions to everyone. Things are going well for Sylvie. There's Patrick Jutran, who's the cornerstone of our publicity income. Peggy, Regulatory Affairs, and board members, former board members, and employees, Daniel Paillet, who worked on the 13th floor, if I recall correctly. Jean-François Parent, Treasury, who's represented, even Quebec City representatives, Martin Tremblay, Véronique, and of course, our board members. Pascal, my partner, Roxane, and Simard and Simard, who replaced Tremblay and Tremblay, Marc and Claudine.
So good morning to all. It's always a great pleasure to welcome you to Quebecor's headquarters for our annual meeting, where we take stock of another successful year. We have the Gérard Lajoie Foundation that we've been supporting for many years, and so it's the last stand. Very, very good. So let me begin by noting that 2025, beyond the many achievements we will discuss in a few moments, was marked by the 100th anniversary of the birth of Quebecor's founder, my father, Pierre Péladeau. This highly symbolic moment for the Quebecor family allows us to honor the immense legacy he left behind and to reaffirm how deeply his visionary spirit and his boldness remain rooted at the heart of our company. This unique character continues to guide our actions, to inspire our teams, and to fuel our drive to innovate and to contribute to the economic development of our society. And it is precisely in this spirit that one of the most transformative decisions in our recent history was made. 3 years ago, almost to the date, we had just completed the acquisition of Freedom Mobile, and we enthusiastically reported this to you at our 2023 meeting. This acquisition, which the Right Honourable Brian Mulroney described at the time as a historic transformative move, marked a truly defining moment in Quebecor's history. Freedom's arrival in our extended family propelled the growth of our telecom sector by paving the way for the expansion of our operations across Canada. 3 years later, we continue to fully capitalize on this momentum. The results for Fiscal Year 2025 demonstrate this, building on the strength of our telecoms group, as well as the achievements of our other sectors that play a leading role in culture, entertainment, and news here in Quebec. Guided by clear strategic priorities and rigorous, sustained execution, we have continued to improve Quebecor's financial and operational performance in 2025, with increases of 27.3% in free cash flow, almost 18% in adjusted net income, and 1.1% in adjusted EBITDA, or almost 5% if you exclude stock-based compensation expenses and the favorable retroactive adjustment related to royalties from some of our specialty channels. These excellent results, following the company's share repurchases of nearly $218 million and a steady, measured increase in our dividend, helped reduce our consolidated net debt by nearly $800 million. This has enabled us to achieve a consolidated net debt ratio of 2.95 times in 2025, which remains, and I love this word, remains the lowest among Canada's major telecommunication companies. Whereas at one point it was the highest. Our Telecom segment delivered another strong performance this year, recording a 47.8 million increase in adjusted EBITDA, or 2%, a 12.4 million increase in total revenue, and an increase of over $112 million, or almost 7%, in mobile service revenue, in addition to posting the highest growth rate in the Canadian mobile history, with a 7.6 increase representing 311,000 new lines in 2025. We are proud, very proud, to have delivered the industry's strongest overall growth, backed by the strongest financial position in 2025, a performance that has been praised by a number of financial analysts. And I remember specifically one BMO analyst in the United States during the past year, or rather the Olympics year, who was saying that Quebecor was a gold medal company. And absolutely right he was. And for a major new player in the Canadian market, this is quite an achievement. And above all, it's evidence of the relevance and the effectiveness of the strategy we're pursuing to transform Freedom and help it reach its full potential. A clear, entirely customer-centered approach that aims to offer more choice, more value at a better price. It's as simple as that. Keep it simple. Like my father used to say. And Eric stressed in the dinner that we had yesterday to pay tribute to his exceptional contribution. Keep it simple, he used to say. And this strategy has resonated strongly, as you can imagine, with Canadian consumers, and has established Freedom as the true game changer in Canada. We have exported Quebec's winning model that Videotron has implemented over the past 20 years. We've exported it throughout Canada. We don't necessarily like to say the rest of Canada, but we invented a new expression, west of Quebec. So this wave of renewal has helped foster genuine competition in a market that was historically dominated by an oligopoly, and as Ms. Lalonde mentioned earlier, has led to a significant drop in wireless service prices. And we were always happy to see Minister Champagne to get up in the House of Commons to say that he had managed to reduce wireless prices in Canada. Thank you, Minister. So, capitalizing on the momentum created by Freedom's arrival, we continued our expansion by even further extending the coverage and the subscriber bases of our three brands. Already well established in Quebec and in several regions in Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, and Manitoba, our brands, Videotron, Freedom, and Fizz, broke into new markets in 2025, enabling us to now reach more than 34 million Canadians, or nearly 83% of the population of the country. And as part of this expansion, Videotron has reiterated its commitment to improving communications and connectivity in regions. We have launched Videotron's internet access services in several cities and municipalities in Quebec, from Magog to Rimouski, including the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean region, reaching over 180,000 new households, and we've additionally deployed mobile services in several areas of the Témiscamingue RCM and Haute-Mauricie. At the same time, we've continued to invest in our network, including by accelerating the activation of new 5G and 5G Plus sites, and by expanding the reach of those technologies in nearly 50 markets across Canada. Furthermore, we have begun the phased rollout of the 3,800 megahertz spectrum across Freedom's entire 5G Plus network in Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta, while also launching 5G technology with Fizz in those same regions as well as in Quebec. And furthermore, reaffirming our commitment to fully embrace our role as Canada's fourth major player, we announced the upcoming construction of our own wireless network in Manitoba starting this year, a major multi-million-dollar project that marks a key milestone in strengthening our technological independence. While Videotron, Freedom, and Fizz continue to clearly stand out from the competition with their high-value offerings at the best prices, commercial innovation has remained at the heart of our priorities. I'm thinking, for example, of Freedom that positioned itself as early as 2023 as a pioneer in international roaming, with unprecedented offers that were quickly replicated by our competition and have now become the industry standard on the Canadian market. Freedom Mobile has further solidified its leadership position this year with the launch of its Roam Beyond Travel Data eSIM plan and its new Total Freedom plans, which now all include roaming in over 120 countries at no extra cost. We are committed to building genuine connections with our customers, and we have expanded our brand's presence on the ground through major partnerships across Canada, such as the iconic Quebec Winter Carnival with Videotron, such as Fizz's partnership with Metrolinx in the Greater Toronto Area, and Freedom's major sponsorships of the Calgary Stampede and the Pacific National Exhibition in Vancouver. Of course, our commitment to providing high-quality service to our customers, both in-store and on our digital platforms, is our DNA and has remained at the heart of everything we do and at the heart of our customers' concerns. Videotron was named by Léger's Reputation 2026 study. It's a bit embarrassing, as the telecommunications company most admired by Quebecers for the 20th time since 2006. This recognition, and we can hope that the Canadiens will match that, at least this year, I'm sure. So this recognition firmly confirms its status as the undisputed leader in customer experience in Quebec. And that's not all. Videotron was ranked first for best in-store telecom experience in Quebec for the third consecutive year, according to Léger's WOW 2026 study. The same study ranked Fizz first for the best online telecom experience in Canada for the seventh consecutive year. Freedom Mobile, for its part, continues to draw inspiration from the proven model of Videotron and Fizz by actively pursuing the transformation of its customer experience. These efforts have enabled Freedom Mobile to rank fifth for the best in-store telecom experience in Western Canada, ahead of the three major incumbent companies, according to WOW 2026. This recognition is all the more significant given Freedom Mobile's strong growth and expansion. Now, let's turn to the media sector and specifically television. Groupe TR's achievements continue to showcase all of our local talent and expertise, and we are very proud of that. However, it has become impossible to talk about the reach of our channels and our content without addressing the major challenges that are severely affecting the private television industry. Over the years, our operating environment has kept deteriorating, exposing a business model that has been profoundly disrupted and a financial situation that has become critical for a number of private broadcasters. Over the past decade, Groupe TVA has demonstrated leadership and responsibility in the face of this precarious situation. We have had to review thoroughly and to adapt a number of times Groupe TVA's business model to address the crisis, which has unfortunately become an almost permanent reality. This rigorous effort has led to difficult but necessary decisions, which notably led to a significant reduction in staff and a downsizing of Groupe TVA's real estate portfolio. We have had reluctantly to close our regional stations and to sell the buildings housing them in Trois-Rivières, Rimouski, and Saguenay, while the building in Sherbrooke is currently up for sale. We had to relocate all of our media teams, the newsroom, and the TV studios to 4545 Frontenac, which was essentially equivalent to creating a new TV station from scratch in less than a year. I would like to thank very sincerely all of Groupe TVA's teams that worked at meeting this colossal challenge of creating a whole new TV station with a newsroom, a production setup, radio studios, and also working with the Videotron teams that always pitched in and contributed their expertise and their well-known talent to take care of connectivity and our server farm, the management of our server farms, which are critical, as you can imagine, as far as we're concerned. And we also had to make judicious, yes, but very difficult programming choices to improve the profitability of our content while maintaining the over-performance of our programming. At the same time, we have continued our extensive advocacy efforts with industry stakeholders, regulatory bodies, and governments, which has allowed us to achieve some gains over the past few months. Notably, after countless efforts and negotiations, we've secured an increase in royalty rates for TVA Sports and our specialty entertainment channels. So it is after several years of sustained effort and with 2026 already well underway that we are now beginning to see some concrete results from these actions. In the first quarter of 2026, Groupe TVA reported a negative adjusted EBITDA of $996,000, representing a favorable variance of almost $19.5 million compared to the same quarter in 2025, while the broadcasting segment posted its first profitable first quarter since 2021 with adjusted EBITDA of $778,000. We obviously welcome these results, but we remain extremely cautious. The challenges we face are as present as ever. They are structural and they are being felt on all fronts. First, in the advertising market, where web giants have a stranglehold by capturing the vast majority of revenue that previously went to local media, while accelerating the exodus of TV subscribers to foreign platforms. Next, on the public broadcaster side, with the unfair competition from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which is competing for advertising revenue while being largely funded by the government. And not to mention paid streaming initiatives, such as 2TV Extra, which again aims to compete with local private platforms like ours, Illico Plus. And this is made even worse by a regulatory framework that remains as burdensome as ever and that long ago became obsolete and that imposes a crushing burden on private broadcasters that unnecessarily hampers their ability to adapt. And finally, in terms of institutional support, where tools like the Media Fund, whose budgets for broadcasters are steadily declining, which directly jeopardizes the production and the vitality of local content. This context has a direct impact on our ability to invest in original fiction production. We are facing an unacceptable paradox. On the one hand, there are broadcasters such as TVA that are fully committed to Quebec content. They are professionals whose expertise is recognized worldwide and an audience that is ready and waiting. But on the other hand, we are facing a fundamental problem with unsustainable production costs and a financial and contractual framework that is stuck in a bygone era. This pressure is already having tangible and regrettable consequences. We have had to reluctantly remove original productions beloved by Quebec audiences from our lineup. This was unfortunately the case for Indomptable and Passé au Salon, two series whose upcoming seasons will not be able to move forward. If nothing is done, other original productions will never see the light of day, leading to the gradual replacement of local productions with less expensive foreign acquisitions. And that to the detriment of our culture, of our jobs, and of our economy. Hundreds of technicians, of actors, of workers in our studios who will no longer have employment. That is why I made a point of addressing the media last Tuesday to take stock of the precarious situation facing private television production and, above all, to call for action from all industry stakeholders, including the federal government, the government of Quebec, the CRTC, CAVCO, which is a federal agency, SODEC, and its Quebec equivalent, as well as associations and unions such as ACTIS, AQPM, UDA, SARTEC, and ARQ. All must work together and agree to review their practices and standards to align them with the actual capacity of today's Quebec market. Shorn of the advertising revenue that are the only source of revenue for our general private TVs. Groupe TVA has carried out its rationalization exercise, but several other concrete solutions exist. We need the participation of all stakeholders to rebuild a viable model and sustainable model. We remain fully committed to continuing this work together with the shared goal of preserving what matters most, our collective ability to provide Quebecers with entertainment, news, and sports content produced by local producers and creators, and that support the entire ecosystem and the jobs it generates. Groupe TVA holds a special place in the hearts of our viewers, and we will continue to do everything in our power to preserve it. Thanks to its compelling and widely popular content, Groupe TVA has remained at the top of the industry with almost 42% market share in 2025, an increase of 1.1 percentage points compared to 2024. On the TVA network, the Daily Show Indéfendable successfully reached a loyal and captivated audience 4 days a week throughout the year. At peak time, an audience of nearly 1.4 million viewers on average, representing almost 36% market share. And our favorite show in the evening before we go to bed, or we record it on our illico box from Vidéotron. I'm referring to Chanteur Masqué. Chanteur Masqué was once again this year the most watched variety show in Canada. In Canada. Heard me, not in Canada, in Quebec, in Canada. With an average audience of nearly 1.5 million viewers, amassing an impressive market share of over 48%. So the popularity of our content, particularly our original productions, continued on our illico Plus platform, the premier destination in Quebec for French language entertainment, which saw an 11% increase in subscribers and a 15% increase in viewing time on its platform in 2025. For its part, TVA Sports recorded a record market share in 2025, the highest in the past 5 years. Our channel's performance was driven by strong and varied programming, featuring several major live sporting events, including the Four Nations Face-Off, a unique event that was a resounding success, the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs, which the Habs narrowly qualified for, the World Series of baseball, where the Blue Jays treated us to an unforgettable Game 7, as well as the National Bank Open tennis tournament, which is unmissable for our chair, the National Bank Open, which was marked by the victory of the young Canadian tennis player Victoria Mboko. And with the 2026 playoffs in full swing, the excitement continues on TVA Sports, the exclusive French language broadcaster of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The performance of the Montreal Canadiens' first round games was eloquent proof of this, with Game 7 drawing 1.6 million viewers and a peak audience exceeding 2.1 million viewers. These major sporting events also allowed our TVA Sport Direct streaming platform to solidify its status as the go-to destination for live sports in Quebec. Its remarkable growth in 2025 continues to gain momentum with a 60% increase in subscribers in the first quarter. As for the news sector, LCN remained the most watched specialty channel in Quebec in 2025 with a market share of almost 8%, an increase of nearly 1% compared to 2024, keeping LCN, which is a specialty channel, still ahead of the general interest channel, Novo. Whether covering local or national news, foreign policy, or major international events, I was watching the Context show yesterday. High quality. LCN is the go-to source for news in Quebec. TVA Nouvelles, broadcast on TVA and LCN, once again, dominated ratings, establishing itself as the number one news program in Quebec in 2025 across all channels, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m., at noon, and at 10 p.m. As for other news media, Le Journal de Montréal and Le Journal de Québec remained the most widely read French-language print dailies in Canada. And that popularity also applies to the digital platforms of our newspapers, which reached 3.1 million of multi-platform readers each week in 2025, print plus digital. Cube Radio's public affairs programming continued to reach audiences on television, on digital platforms, and on the airwaves at 99.5 FM, following the agreement for Leclerc Communication to acquire Cube's content. Given the major role our media play in reaching and informing the public across all platforms, it is clear that the new tax credit for Quebec news media represents a major step forward, particularly in the current context marked by significant job losses, the closure of newsrooms, and the rise of misinformation. This new measure, which we have been calling for years, and which finally covers all categories of journalists, no more discrimination, provides essential support that will enable the media to continue delivering reliable, high-quality information across all platforms. The Quebec government, Minister of Finance, has recognized the need to take action on this issue, and we thank them wholeheartedly. It is now up to the Government of Canada to take action, moving quickly from consultation to action. And contrary to some figures that have gone around, the potential contribution would be in the order of between $5 and $7 million. Okay, let's move on to film and audiovisual services. Our sector's performance was impacted by the absence of foreign blockbuster productions at Mills in 2025, although the facilities and services were in high demand throughout the year. It has become more difficult to attract major international productions to film in Quebec, and that is mainly due to the lack of appeal of Quebec's tax incentives offered to foreign producers. For Quebec to become once again a leading competitive destination for this type of project, our partners must be able to benefit from tax credits comparable to or even more advantageous than those offered elsewhere in Canada and internationally. The resulting economic benefits are significant for host regions. It is therefore imperative that the government of Quebec quickly adjust its tax framework to restore Quebec's competitiveness and to attract and secure these strategic investments that improve our trade balance here in Quebec. Let's now turn to sports and entertainment, a sector in which our group has continued to establish itself as a major force in the production, broadcasting, and promotion of cultural and sporting events in Quebec. A cornerstone of our ecosystem of performance venues, the Videotron Center celebrated its 10th anniversary in 2025, a symbolic milestone that highlighted the remarkable growth of the Quebec City Amphitheatre, which has hosted nearly 800 events, including 308 shows, and welcomed nearly 8 million visitors since its opening in 2015. In 10 years, the Centre Videotron has quickly established itself as a world-class venue for both local artists and for global stars, such as Katy Perry, Bryan Adams, who both delivered memorable performances in 2025. The Centre Videotron has also established itself as a premier destination in hockey, notably with the Quebec City Remparts, who have successfully played there. We are proud that the Centre Videotron was chosen to host two major events of the International Ice Hockey Federation: the Women's World Championship in 2027 and the World Junior Championship in 2029. Those are hundreds and hundreds of hockey players who will be coming here from abroad in our national capital to participate in our collective enrichment and the improvement of our commercial balance. Furthermore, to strengthen our role as a leader in event management across more regions of Quebec, our subsidiary Gestev announced in March 2026 the acquisition of the Festival Country Lotbinière. This move is fully aligned with our group's growth trajectory and enhances our regional event offerings. We've just highlighted some of our greatest achievements, but this review would not be complete without mentioning the many initiatives that we are implementing to contribute to the enrichment of our community. My father, Pierre Pelado, our father, Eric Jean, and my father, made this a fundamental principle. And we are proud to carry on this legacy and this teaching with the same deep conviction. As you have mentioned, Madam Chair, we have provided over $38 million in donations and sponsorships in 2025, which benefited more than 400 organizations operating across many regions of Quebec, from the Magdalen Islands to Rimouski, including Baie-Saint-Paul and Saint-Venant-Paquette. In addition to our significant contribution to the cultural industry through our business activities, once again in 2025 we allocated nearly half of our annual social contributions to the cultural sector. Among other initiatives, we provided concrete support to Quebec's emerging cultural talent by donating $150,000 to the Fondation des Artistes to establish the Quebecor Fund for Emerging Artists. We've also continued our most significant philanthropic project, Éléphant Mémoire du Cinéma Québécois, in which we have invested over $48 million since 2007. This unique project has made it possible to restore, digitize, and make available to the public 265 feature films that chronicle more than 60 years of our collective history. We have also donated $100,000 to the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Ms. Simard, who is the governor of the Rempart de Québec, it's the Maritime Junior Hockey. The QMJHL, which will provide scholarships and academic and athletic support to young hockey players. On the environmental front, we've continued our efforts to combat climate change, thanks in part to our transportation electrification plan, On Roule Électrique, and the responsible management of our vehicle fleet. We've continued the On Tourne Vert program in partnership with MELS and TVA, and the Geste Vert program in partnership with GESTEP to promote environmental responsibility on film sets in Quebec and at events produced here in Quebec by our sports and entertainment group. In addition, we continue to encourage Videotron customers to return to the store electronic devices they no longer use as part of the Revis program, which has diverted more than 14 million electronic devices from landfills since 2013 for reuse or recycling. True to our entrepreneurial roots, we remain as committed as ever to encouraging the creation of innovative businesses that will shape the future of Quebec, and will do so even more over the coming years. We do this, on the one hand, through the Pierre Pellado scholarships, which since 1999 have awarded more than $3.3 million to student entrepreneurs to help them bring their business projects and their business plans to life. We also support entrepreneurship through Asterix, Quebecor's venture capital arm, through which we invest in emerging companies developing innovative solutions that can drive innovation within our operations and across society. Finally, we have continued to join forces with partners committed to creating a more united, inclusive, and equitable society. We continued, Madam Chair, you mentioned the Unité mission. Videotron's expertise will provide connectivity for 12 low-income senior residences, helping residents stay connected with their loved ones. We have also renewed our participation for a second year in Food Banks Canada's Giving Tuesday initiative, through which Freedom Mobile helped provide meals to nearly 80,000 people in need across Canada. And once again, Madam Chair, you've mentioned that. We are proud of the upcoming opening of 3 new Espace Autiste et Majeur pavilions, and we are doing this in collaboration with those who are at the originally created this project, Charles Lafortune and Sophie Préjean, who work very closely with Quebecor and TVA. And in conclusion, building on these achievements, we are moving forward into 2026 with determination and boldness. We will continue to rely on the strength of our financial position and on our rigorous ability to implement our strategies, which remain powerful drivers for maintaining disciplined growth and ensuring sustainable value creation for all our stakeholders. To do so, we can, of course, count on the exemplary dedication and hard work of all our employees, whom I would like to thank most sincerely. On that note, I would like to take this opportunity to recognize 12 employees who are celebrating particularly significant anniversaries this year. Together, they have accumulated more than 550 years of service and contribution to the company. I would like to thank them sincerely for their loyalty over all these years. It is a source of great pride from the company and for me to be able to count on such dedicated employees. And it's always a great pleasure to get together about twice a year in this room to salute their contribution and to give me an opportunity to thank them personally and to tell them that they have contributed and they contribute now to the success of the company. Imagine, 50 years ago, what Quebecor was, and 50 years later, what it has become, that company of which Quebecers are so proud. It's thanks to you, all of you, that today we are here and we have the honor and the pleasure of saluting you. So, I would like the following employees to stand, those who were able to be with us this morning. Let me start. Nicole Guérard from Videotron, nearly 45 years of service. Pierre Chambaud, also Videotron, approaching 45 years of service. Marie-Hélène Brunet of Videotron, approaching 46 years of service. You're getting the concept. It's getting longer. Michel Joly of TVA, 48 years of service. And I would like to congratulate, I think, many of us. Michel, we have to stress that those tens and tens of pounds that he shed, 197 pounds. Congratulations, Michel. You're very impressive. And Claire Lebel from the Books Division, a major sector for us, publishing, general publishing, literature and textbooks. Claire, 49 years of service. Madeleine Brigand, also Videotron, 49 years of service. And to conclude, among those who are here, Jean-Guy Bernard from Videotron with 50 years of service. Isn't it wonderful? Again, thank you. Thanks to all of you. And I would also like to mention those who could not be here this morning. André Rivet from Videotron, Carole Gladu from Videotron, Michel Cormier, also Videotron, Micheline Saint-Martin, Louis Sartori, and our Dean. She joined Videotron in 1975 with 51 years of service, Roseanne Judd. So thank you again to all of you. I would also like to thank all of our shareholders, our partners, our advertisers for their continued trust. Even if some columnists aren't happy about that, we need you, and you know that you play a crucial role in our work producing culture here in Quebec for Quebecers. Thank you to Madam Chair for her unwavering commitment. It's hard to use the word replace, but she has brilliantly continued the Right Honorable Brian Mulroney and all the other members of the board for their invaluable support. And I would like to take this opportunity to highlight the remarkable contribution of my big brother. Again, as I've said earlier, we had an opportunity to have a tribute dinner yesterday with all directors and many past directors who have saluted his visionary contribution. If we are here where we are today, it's also thanks to his very, very important contribution. Eric has always been a major support and has always advocated for boldness. It takes courage because it hasn't always been easy, but Eric was always there, supporting management, working with management, and always praising their success. Thank you. Thank you to Chantal Bélanger, who has decided, as Ms. Lalonde said, not to continue on the board. She had been a director since 2018. And I would like to welcome Marc Tremblay on the board. Marc, welcome back to Quebecor. And of course, I'll conclude by expressing my deep gratitude to our millions of customers and to all of our audiences for their loyalty, which is essential to us. And I would now like to invite Hugues Simard, our Chief Financial Officer, to present our financial results for the first quarter, for the year and first quarter. Thank you, Pierre-Carl. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I will now present, as Pierre-Carl was saying, the financial review for the year 2025 and our first quarter, the results of which were published this morning. First, the highlights of 2025. Quebecor reported revenue of $5.675 billion, an increase of 0.7% compared to fiscal year 2024. EBITDA, which is the most common measure of profitability, that is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, So EBITDA increased by 1.1% to 2.393 billion. However, and Pascal mentioned that earlier, if we exclude two items that are not specifically related to our operating performance, so by excluding the negative impact of a $110.8 million increase in stock-based compensation expense, attributable to the strong growth in Quebecor's share price in 2025, and the positive impact of $26.2 million related to the retroactive adjustment of specialty channel royalties in the media segment. If we exclude those one-time items, our adjusted EBITDA increased by 4.7% rather than 1.1% before items of note. In 2025, Quebecor also generated free cash flow of $1.426 billion, up 27.3% from 2024. Net income attributable to shareholders amounted to $856 million in 2025, or $3.73 per share, up 14.5% from $748 million, or $3.23 per share in 2024. Now, let's go into a little more detail by looking at our key financial metrics. First, regarding our revenue. Growth, which has been well underway for several years and was boosted, of course, by the acquisition of Freedom Mobile in 2023. Growth continued in 2025, accumulating in an increase of over 31% over the past 5 years. In 2025, revenue growth continued to be driven by our Telecom segment, which posted an increase of $12.4 million, fueled by a remarkable $112 million, or 6.7% increase in mobile service revenue. We have added more than 311,000 net new mobile lines in 2025, a 7.6% increase, the highest growth rate in the Canadian industry, and an excellent performance by our three brands, Videotron, Freedom, and Fizz, both in Quebec and across Canada. Our media segment saw its revenues increase by $26.9 million, a rise driven primarily by the $26.2 million positive impact of retroactive royalty agreements for our specialty channels. The sports and entertainment segment also recorded an increase of $2.6 million, or 1.2%. For the first quarter of 2026, this morning we announced consolidated revenue of $1.395 billion, up 3.9% from last year. Our Telecom segment has increased its revenue by 4.9% to $1.217 billion, a rise primarily attributable to higher service revenue in both mobile telephony and internet access, where ARPU, or average revenue per user, continues to grow. Revenues in the media segment decreased by 4.9%, while those in the sports and entertainment segment decreased by 1.4% for the quarter. In terms of our operating profitability, adjusted EBITDA has increased by nearly $440 million 2025, or more than 20% over the past 5 years. This reflects, obviously, the operational discipline of our teams and the strength of our business model. In 2025, our telecommunications segment improved its operating profitability by $47.8 million, or 2%, to reach a record adjusted EBITDA of $2.383 billion. Our media segment recorded adjusted EBITDA of $68.1 million in 2025, representing a favorable variance of $36.2 million compared to 2024. Although this variance is partly attributable to the retroactive adjustment to TVA Group's specialty channel royalties, it primarily reflects the rigorous financial discipline, the ongoing review of each operating expense, and the judicious selection of programming content that our teams continue to apply amid the challenging environment facing the private television industry. For the first quarter of 2026, we are reporting today a consolidated adjusted EBITDA of $577 million, an increase of 13.1% compared to last year, excluding stock-based compensation expense. Free cash flow generation performed remarkably well in 2025, surpassing the $1.425 billion mark, an increase of $305 million or 27.3% compared to 2024. Over a 5-year period, this represents growth of more than 80%. This exceptional free cash flow performance, I'm sure you'll agree with me, is primarily attributable to the increase in cash flows generated by our operating activities, itself driven by growth in adjusted EBITDA and a decrease in our financing expenses, which is a direct reflection of our deleveraging. This substantial cash position enabled us in 2025 to reduce our debt by nearly $800 million and to repurchase 5.3 million shares for $218 million, to increase our dividend by 14.3% while maintaining a conservative payout ratio. For several years now, and particularly since the acquisition of Freedom in April 2023, we have made improving our balance sheet a top priority. I think you'll agree the results speak for themselves. Our net debt ratio has been reduced from 3.6 times at the time of the acquisition of Freedom to just 2.86 times as of March 31st, 2026, the lowest ratio, as Pierre-Carl has already said, among Canada's leading telecommunications companies. This reduction in leverage reflects the strength of our operating model and our exemplary financial discipline. It also gives us, and that is very important, greater strategic flexibility to continue investing in our networks, in our customer experience, and in our growth, while maximizing returns for our shareholders. In terms of our debt, we continue to enjoy a high level of confidence from the financial markets, as evidenced by the financing transactions we've concluded in 2025. In November 2025, Videotron issued $800 million in senior notes bearing interest at 3.95% and maturing in October 2032. In 2025, Videotron also repaid in full its $600 million US notes, which bore a rate of 5.125%, its $400 million of notes at a rate of 5.625%, as well as early repayment of $200 million on its term credit facility. Since the beginning of 2026, Videotron has fully repaid the second tranche of its term credit facility and $200 million of the third tranche. Videotron has also renewed and enhanced its revolving credit facility, adding new tranches in US dollars. Last April, we launched a US commercial paper program, allowing for the issuance of up to $1 billion in senior unsecured notes, which will further optimize our debt structure and diversify our funding sources. In February 2026, our board of directors declared a 14.3% increase in the quarterly dividend, raising it to 40 cents per share on both Class A and Class B shares, representing an annualized dividend of $1.60 per share. This increase is consistent with our commitment to return between 30% and 50% of our free cash flow to our shareholders. Combined with the share repurchase program, the dividend policy reflects the confidence that management and the board of directors have in Quebecor's current and future financial profile. To conclude, Quebecor enters 2026 in an enviable position. The lowest debt ratio in the industry, a record free cash flow, sustained and profitable growth in mobile telephony, a reliable and high-performance network, and a customer experience and customer satisfaction rates that are unmatched among telecommunication companies in Canada. This, Madam Chair, concludes the financial review for fiscal year 2025. Thank you for your attention.
I think we can say congratulations. What a success story. Congratulations to the entire team, Pascal, and everyone else. Part of you are here, but there are many more. So congratulations to you all. I would now like to ask Ms. Francine Beauséjour to share the results of the ballots. Madam Chair, Class A directors were elected with at least 99.9% of votes. Class B directors were elected with at least 98.10% votes for, and shareholders ratified the nomination of the external auditor with 9.88% votes for, and shareholders ratified the shareholders' approach in senior leadership compensation with over 8% for, and shareholders voted against shareholder proposal number 1 with over 98% against, and shareholders voted against proposal number 2 with 99.55% votes against. Francine Beauséjour and Isabelle Bachon, scrutineers. I would have liked to have that kind of result when I was in school. So thank you very much, Ms. Beauséjour, and therefore I accept the scrutineer's report, and I declare that the proposals for the appointment of the external auditor and approval of the advisory resolution endorsing the board's approach to executive compensation have been duly adopted. And I would also declare that Mr. André Brousseau, Ms. Michelle Colpron, Lise Croteau, Mr. Jean-Pierre Ledoux, and myself, Sylvie Lalonde, were elected as Class A directors. Furthermore, I declare that Mr. Franz Santelini and Mr. Marc Tremblay have been elected as Class B directors of the company. Yes, congratulations. I think that it's a strong show of trust. And I'd like to invite registered shareholders or proxy holders who wish to ask questions to come to the microphone and identify themselves. I would also like to remind this that there will be a press conference following the meeting immediately in a room next door. You have a question? I'm a shareholder. You are? Hélène Dufresne. Good day. Thank you very much for this great meeting. Mr. Gouladou, could you please say a few words on the use of artificial intelligence and the precautionary principle? Are you applying that principle? And how do you use AI? What an interesting question. If you follow the news, you'll know that this is something that many business leaders are confronted with. So we are not any different. And should we choose to use AI, what I would say is that given that we are involved in many activities, whether it's cinema, whether it's editing, call centers, engineering, financial analysis, they have all led us to have a shared understanding and which all of us have to be part of the conversation and all of us have to suggest solutions. I would conclude that AI is essentially a must, but we have to reflect on its use. There's the entire case to be made for cybersecurity that also is something Videotron and other organizations, but more specifically with Videotron, because it's at the forefront of network protection, to make sure that our clients' identities are protected. So how that ensures that we need to have a multitude of tools to protect ourselves. Now, you talked about the precautionary principle. That's also something that is brought up by media quite a lot because we know that AI could lead to issues. And if we want to assume our responsibility, because a publicly traded company, and in fact a large company for our local economy and abroad, given the large number of our activities that have an effect on an immediate effect on the public, that means that we need to do our very best to ensure that we won't be faced with such issues. So we are keeping an eye on these trends every day. And at the same time, we want to make sure that we can use the economies of scale related to deploying AI tools. Just a follow-up question, if you'd allow me. For Quebecor, information is extremely important. It's important for information to be accurate. And I've noticed that in some papers, including Le Devoir, there are articles that are in part drafted by AI, which leads me to wonder about ethics in journalism and about the accuracy of what's written. Do you have anything to say to that? I don't think that we should avoid using AI. Does it exist in written media or TV media? Yes, of course it does. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to avoid blunders, and we'll avoid them mainly by ensuring that we continually double-check everything that AI produces. Often, I use my phone to find information through Perplexity, for instance. Now, do I take all of it as such? No, but it's the start of research I do on my own that can be useful, and that requires checking. And of course, there is a framework around our newsrooms, and it's a priority for everybody who works in the newsrooms to ensure that the information is accurate. So we will not release information, or should it happen, we will correct it. Great, thank you. Thank you very much, Madame Dufresne. Are there any other questions from our shareholders or proxy holders? Seeing no one, I would like to thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for your interest in Quebecor. I'd also like to express my deepest gratitude to all the teams at Quebecor and its subsidiaries for their exceptional work and unwavering dedication, and to our many shareholders for their continued trust. To all members of the board and its committees who have supported management in achieving their goals, and of course, to Pierre Carl and the entire management team for their leadership and unwavering commitment. I now declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you to all.